Okay guys, welcome back to part 3 of building the ultimate Glock 43. Last video we left off with the extended base plates from Terran Tactical. So this past Friday, Christmas Eve, we went to Live Fire Weapons and Range in Rome, Georgia, and we did a lot of testing. We shot about 1,000 rounds. To be exact, it was 1,050 rounds. It presented two big problems. The first thing was the trigger. First off, it takes an act of God to pull this trigger. The reason why that's bad is because when it takes so much effort to pull the trigger on a pistol that's this small and weighs what this pistol weighs, it will actually throw your shot. Started doing a little dry firing. I stood over the pistol and was looking at the slide like you guys are looking at it now, and every time I pulled the trigger, even as smooth as I could possibly pull it, the pistol would jerk from left to right or right to left, just really depending on how the trigger broke. But it was throwing my shots, so that really sucked. Okay, so it's affecting accuracy, so of course anybody would know that that's a big problem. The second problem that I noticed with this gun is the recoil. All right, and it's not that the recoil is any more than any other 9mm. No, it's the exact same amount of recoil, but you have to think about the size of the pistol and the actual real estate that you have available, and there's not a lot. And what I talk about in my courses is you have actual recoil and perceived recoil. So this is a 9mm. When I shoot this Glock 43, the perceived recoil feels like it's astronomical. It feels like just a ton of recoil, like you're shooting a Desert Eagle or something like that. But the same 9mm round in a Glock 17 or a Glock 19, the perceived recoil is a lot less because it's a much bigger gun. The bigger the gun is, the more real estate you have to actually get a good grip on it. The better your grip, the better you can manage the recoil. So when you're talking about perceived recoil, that brings up a very important point. When shooting a gun is so difficult, when it's so difficult to pull the trigger, when it's really hard to manage the recoil to the point to where every time you pull the trigger breaks and the gun goes off, the gun is jumping out of your hand. It becomes very unpleasant. And the fact is that when a gun is unpleasant to shoot, people are not going to carry it. People tend to carry guns that they're comfortable with. The Glock 43 for a lot of people have ended up being that gun that they're going to carry if they have to. And I just think that, the Glock 43 presents a very unique opportunity for Glock lovers and just people that are looking for a gun of this size. And I think that we can improve on it. But as of right now, I felt like as of Friday, I felt like a lot of other Glock 43 owners, they feel uncomfortable shooting a gun, and it's like, well, unless I really have to carry it, then I'll carry it. But other than that, I'm gonna carry my 19 or my 26. So, what is the solution to these problems that I presented? Okay, so the first thing we did was took it back home, cleaned it really well. I did a 25-cent trigger job on it, basically polishing the trigger bar, the crucible, the connector, basically anywhere that there's metal-to-metal contact within the trigger group itself and the trigger assembly. If there is metal-to-metal contact, polish it. All you need is polish, and you can just use a rag, but I used a Dremel with a buffing wheel. Just make sure that when you're doing any type of modifications that you're not changing any of the angles on the trigger assembly, because those angles are extremely important. Of course, after doing the 25-cent trigger job, did a full function test. Everything still functions perfectly. All three safeties still engaged the way that they're supposed to. I'm a huge proponent of really not touching the inside of the gun. But let me tell you that 25-cent trigger job helped a ton. As far as poundage, it went from 5 1/4 to about 4 1/4 pounds, so it dropped a pound. Our goal is not really to reach a certain number as far as the poundage of the trigger pull is concerned. All I was really trying to do was smooth out the trigger, and I basically wanted the trigger pull to feel as if I was shooting my Glock 19 or my Glock 17. When you have a trigger that it takes an act of God to pull, it's really hard to pre-stage that trigger. It's really hard to predict when that trigger is going to break. I don't believe in it should be a surprise when the gun goes off. You need to know exactly when the gun goes off. And it's really hard to do that because with the factory trigger, you pull the slack out of the trigger and you pretty much have to jerk the trigger in order to pull it. Now, it feels just like a normal mid-size or full-size Glock. The next thing, we did an undercut. So we did an undercut right here. It seems to have helped a decent amount, okay? So the purpose of the undercut is to get a higher purchase on the gun. The higher the purchase is on the gun, meaning the higher your hand is on the gun, the more leverage you actually have in mitigating that recoil. So yes, it helped. So did the undercut. Next thing we did was the stipple, and I'm sure you guys see it already in the camera. We did the full stipple job all the way around it. It helped out incredibly because now I finally feel like I can hang on to the gun. The next final thing that we did, and this is something that, you know, agency, and I don't know if Salient does it, but I know agency does. They do the shooter's ledges, but I think how they do it is they, you know, use some type of Dremel type, rotary type something, and they just kind of take away some of the material and create that ledge for your support hand thumb to push down on. But what I do is I actually take a soldering iron and I actually just manipulate the polymer right there. And I don't know if you can see it. It's right here. I just manipulate it and I make a little ledge, and I'm gonna turn it. I'm gonna turn it to the side so maybe you can see about how far it sticks out. It only sticks out about 1 millimeter or 2. It helps incredibly. Again, what that is for is when my support hand is on the gun, now my thumb has somewhere to rest, and not just somewhere to rest, but I actually push down on the front of the gun to further assist me in managing that recoil. It helps tremendously. So what was the outcome? We did all those things. So when I was shooting on Friday, I had about 6 to 8 inch groups from 15 yards to 25 yards. Consistently today, we went back today. I'm recording this, it's real late on Christmas Day, but we went today, we shot about another 600 rounds, so I should be at about 1,650 rounds total in the gun. And my group at 15 yards was 3 inch square. It was very easy. Like I said, the trigger, and I'm talking about the trigger specifically now because I think that was one of the biggest improvements that I noticed, is that, like I said, it felt just like I was shooting my Glock 19 or my Glock 17. I could stage the trigger. I knew exactly when it was going to break, and it didn't take an act of God to actually get the trigger to break. So the gun stopped flinching the gun was no longer jerked from left to right or up down. The gun, now that with the stipple job, with the shooter's ledge, with the trigger job, it's starting to feel, this Glock 43 is starting to feel more like its bigger brother, the Glock 19. We all know the Glock 19 is probably one of the most popular concealed carry weapons in the world, and there's thousands of reasons. I'll make a video on that one day, I guess, but it's really starting to feel like that Glock 19. Again, I put another 600 rounds through it today, and it really just felt good. And I noticed as I kept going along in the round count, my confidence continued to increase. Went out to 25 yards. My groups were in the 4.5 inch range at 25 yards. So I was really happy with that as well. And honestly, after I put this gun, you know, I got done shooting and I put this gun back on my hip, I felt better about it. You know, I felt that, you know, hey, if something happens, you know, I think I could use this gun to defend myself, my family, and a perfect stranger. So that's the goal. So I'm extremely happy with the modifications that have been done to the gun. I know the TLR6 is on there. That's for the next video because there's some things that specifically I want to show and talk to you about with it. But I'm highly, highly impressed. So I know this part 3 included a few things, but I felt that it was needed because I think that we're on the right road as far as how to build the ultimate Glock 43. And in doing that, we're basically just trying to get this gun to be a gun that you feel comfortable shooting, a gun that you have confidence in, a gun that you have good accuracy with, a gun that could very well be a battle pistol, just like its bigger brother, the Glock 19 and the Glock 17. So I'm very, very happy with where we're going with this gun. You know, guys, the purpose of this entire video series is just to give you an idea of the things that you may want to do when you purchase a brand new Glock, or any gun for that matter, but especially a Glock 43. If you want to have that confidence in this gun where you feel that you can actually use it to defend yourself, and it's more than just a gun that you're going to use if the person's only 10 foot away. I'd like to say thank you guys so much for watching this video series. It means a lot to me. I've been reading the comments, I've been answering a bunch of questions, and I'm just really enjoying how much of an impact that it's making. So I really appreciate you guys, just tuning in and asking the questions, and more importantly, being involved in this entire process. So thank you guys very, very, very much. As always, if you have any questions, just comment below. I will answer them as soon as I see them. If you happen to find this on YouTube, please be sure to subscribe if you liked this video. You can always find me on Facebook, facebook.com/Provectus Group. You can also find me on Instagram @Provectus Group. And guys, in all that you do, be unstoppable.